This is the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw. Join the conversation on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Phuket Live Radio.
Hello and welcome to the News Hour. Great to have your company. Over the next hour, we're going to bring you up to date with stories making news locally, nationally, and in the ASEAN region, plus right around the world. And news just in from the BBC. A British Airways plane bound for London has caught fire at Las Vegas airport, forcing the evacuation of 172 people on board on emergency slides. McCarran International Airport has just tweeted that 7 people, quote, received medical treatment for minor injuries. The US Federal Aviation Administration spokesperson Ian McGregor said that the left engine of the Boeing 777-200 caught fire before takeoff. The plane was seen engulfed in flames and smoke, and the fire was later put out. I will post that vision on facebook.com, the Phuket News, but just repeating that breaking news that a British Airways plane bound for London has caught fire at Las Vegas airport, forcing the evacuation of 172 people on board on emergency slides, and that also confirms that 7 people were treated for minor injuries. Lots of news on the way here on the Phuket News with Tim Shaw. Great to know that when you need the news, there's only one place to go. Live 89.5, the Phuket News Hour, brought to you by the Kids Club Phuket.
The news you need to know. This is the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw.
The story in the Bangkok Post. A United Nations consultant stuck in limbo at Suvarnabhumi Airport's immigration detention centre as a result of an alleged vendetta against him by a National Innovation Agency official is calling on the agency to, quote, take immediate criminal action against the civil servant. Wynne Ellis, a UN environmental consultant, calls for charges to be filed under Section 157 of the Criminal Code in a Facebook posting shortly before he was released at 9:30 p.m. on Monday night from the centre where he had volunteered to remain since the previous Thursday when he arrived on a flight from Norway to find he had been, quote, blacklisted from entering Thailand, allegedly for being, quote, a danger to Thai society. According to the Bangkok Post story, Mr. Ellis, who has lived in Bangkok for 30 years and held both UK and Thai passports, was released apparently after intervention by the British ambassador and with the help of sympathetic immigration officials. The Bangkok Post reports and quotes Mr. Ellis as saying the following: "It was entirely my choice to stay, to clear the situation locally. So, I want to make it clear, I was never kept locked up by the immigration department," he wrote on Facebook. "This was my choice to remain so that I could clear my name from the blacklist. I was handed back my UK passport and escorted out of the airport by a retinue of very happy immigration officers in a celebratory mood. I am now apparently persona grata once again," he wrote in another Facebook post. Mr. Ellis has described his ordeal in an interview with the Bangkok Post on Monday when he still believed he was going to be deported back to Norway. He said he flew into Bangkok last Thursday after having lost his Thai passport. That full report on the BangkokPost.com. A story from the Australian newspaper that the Department of Foreign Affairs of Australia is going to help a young Victorian girl that was stranded in Vietnam without a passport, and apparently she's now one step closer to coming home after the Foreign Affairs Department stepped in to help her distraught mother. Chara Revitt with this report.
The Maidstone schoolgirl, who cannot be named for legal reasons, has been stuck in Vietnam since late August after her father refused to hand over her passport before he flew back to Melbourne. The issue was brought up to the attention of the Foreign Minister Julie Bishop on Tuesday, and she has given assurance the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade is dealing with the matter. Social justice campaigner Les Twentyman, who has been helping the mother, says it is a positive outcome. Hopefully, within the next 24 or 48 hours, Mum will be able to go over and bring her back. The girl has been staying with her mother's relatives in Ho Chi Minh City after the 31-year-old flew back to Melbourne to track down her former husband and get a new passport for their daughter. The couple have been separated since April, but the family travelled to Vietnam together in July to visit her relatives. The woman's former husband said he would hold the family passports for safekeeping, but later told his ex-wife they had been stolen.
Chara Revitt with that disturbing report of the young 11-year-old Australian citizen who fortunately was staying with relatives in Vietnam after her estranged father had taken her passport back to Australia. More news on the way. This is the Phuket News Hour.
Missed something? No problem. Listen to the Phuket News Hour any time of the day. Programs posted daily on the phuketnews.com/radio and on our Facebook page, Phuket Live Radio.
According to a story in the Manila Bulletin, Asia-Pacific intelligence chiefs have met on security cooperation in Brunei, and heads and representatives of military intelligence organisations from 24 countries across the world met in Brunei on Monday for a conference on pursuing stability through defence intelligence cooperation. The 8th Asia-Pacific Intelligence Chiefs Conference focused on the main topics of maritime security, anti-transnational crime and law enforcers training for combating terrorism. The conference aimed to promote open dialogue for military intelligence chiefs in the Asia-Pacific region to further build their networks and enhance cooperation toward a more consolidated response to common security challenges. The participating countries included Australia, Bangladesh, Cambodia, Canada, China, France, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Laos, Malaysia, the Maldives, Mongolia, Nepal, New Zealand, Pakistan, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Tonga, the United Kingdom and Vietnam. These initiatives, particularly in the ASEAN region, are going to build to more bilateral meetings amongst the participating countries, and that will take place in other sideline meetings. Initiated in Kuala Lumpur in 2007, APIC serves as an annual regional avenue that gives military intelligence chiefs an opportunity to come together, interact closely and discuss cooperative matters within the intelligence field. That report from the Manila Bulletin. Moving to Jakarta, the Bangkok Post is reporting that Indonesia will keep its ban on mineral exports after rejecting proposals that it would have allowed some raw ore shipments from mining companies in the process of building smelters, the country's Energy and Minerals Resources Minister said this week. Export of raw materials, including nickel, copper, ore and bauxite, was stopped in January 2014 until miners had built metal processing facilities in Indonesia. And whilst insisting on smelting capacities before exports can resume, would allow the nation to capture more of the wealth from its trove of natural resources. It has also benefited neighbouring countries. Indonesia's miners have invested in Malaysia to extract bauxite, while the Philippines has emerged as the world's biggest nickel supplier. That report from the Bangkok Post. More news on the way. This is the Phuket News Hour.
Your daily news fix, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. Only on Live 89.5.
Breaking news. The Kids Club Phuket is the best place for your kid to have so much fun with children of their age. You know, the Kids Club Phuket is located opposite Jung Salong. 800 square metres of air-conditioned comfort for your kids to play. Wonderful trained nannies there to monitor your children while you pop over the road to Jung Salong. Have a kid-free meal, get your nails done, do the shopping. The Kids Club Phuket, open 10 a.m. through to 9 p.m, 7 days a week, opposite Jung Salong. Underground parking, the best fun your kid can have. And if you're looking for party supplies too, the Kids Club, TKC Party Supplies. Check out the full range of great party decorations, balloons, plates, everything you need. The Kids Club Phuket. Go to kidsphuket.com. The Kids Club Phuket, proud sponsors of the Phuket News Hour.
The stuff you need to know. 60 minutes of news on the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw.
Today marks a milestone for the head of state of 28 Commonwealth nations and, of course, the Queen of Great Britain, Queen Elizabeth II. She officially becomes the longest reigning monarch in British history, even beating that other royal stayer, Queen Victoria. At aged 89, she is still in the same job she assumed on the death of her father in 1952, and she shows no signs of even contemplating retirement. The Australian Broadcasting Corporation Europe correspondent Philip Williams looks back on 63 years of service of Queen Elizabeth II.
She was not born to be Queen, but with the abdication of Edward the His Love Wallace Simpson, Elizabeth's father unexpectedly assumed the throne. And when George VI passed away in 1952, a shy princess suddenly became a queen, a job she'd never applied for, but made a solemn promise to fulfil.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
The world may have changed and Britain's place in it, but there's been one rock that's been consistent, no matter what. She's seen prime ministers come and go, but she's prevailed. She's the 63rd British monarch, now in her 63rd year as Queen, exceeding the long, long years of service of her great-great-grandmother, Queen Victoria. Matthew Glencross is a royal historian.
Queen Victoria could put more of herself into her monarchy, more of her opinion, whereas the Queen sees her role far more as a duty and a job. And if anything, the Queen is far more interested in the smooth running of the country and the Commonwealth than interjecting her own personality.
And now she becomes the longest Queen or King to reign over Britain, and of course countries like Australia, where she's head of state. She's outlived most of the world leaders she's met. The shy young princess developed into an accomplished and confident diplomat, flying the British flag, avoiding controversy.
She's someone who has met Winston Churchill, she's met Charles de Gaulle, she's met Eisenhower, she's seen wars, she's seen coalitions, recessions, her experience is very well valid. And I think how many other Western world leaders can you think of that have been not just lived through, but in head of state through all these things? So yeah, her advice is valued, I think, throughout the world.
But while the Queen rarely put a wrong foot forward in public, the same could not be said of her family. No disaster more marked than the marriage of Prince Charles to Diana, the great day of the wedding ending years later in public acrimony, and ultimately the princess's untimely death. Despite the failures of all but one of her children's marriages, her own to Prince Philip has endured, her constant consort, whose health has been a worry to the Queen over recent years. As for retirement plans, well, there aren't any. This lady is not for quitting.
That report from Philip Williams in London, reporting for the abc.net.au AM radio program. More news on the way. This is the Phuket News Hour.
Today's important stories and the island's best music. This is the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw.
Moving to Myanmar, the Myanmar opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi launched her campaign this week for the first general election since the end of military rule, saying it was a crucial turning point and calling on the global community to monitor the outcome. In a video message posted on her National League for Democracy's Facebook page, Nobel laureate Suu Kyi said that the November 8 election should be free and fair, but, quote, almost more important would be the transition period that follows. The NLD is expected to win the election, which marks a major shift in Myanmar's political landscape, giving a platform to democratic activists shut out of public life during nearly half a century of strict military rule that ended in 2011. The NLD won an election in 1990 with a landslide, but the junta did not recognise the result. Quoting Suu Kyi, Reuters says, "For the first time in decades, our people will have a real chance of bringing about real change. A smooth and tranquil transition is almost more important than a free and fair election." The campaign begins less than a month after a presidential contender and opponent of President Thein Sein, Parliamentary Speaker Shwe Man, was removed as ruling party leader in a dramatic shake-up of the political establishment. Shwe Man's close relationship with Suu Kyi was regarded with suspicion by the military. His ouster has stoked fears that Thein Sein's government will resist any bid to push it from power, even if the opposition wins a convincing victory. That story from Reuters.com. This is the Phuket News Hour.
The stuff you need to know. 60 minutes of news on the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw.
That is the Phuket News Hour. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget that you can listen to the podcast by going to PhuketLiveRadio.com. Check us out on Facebook.com Phuket Live Radio and Facebook.com The Phuket News. The program produced and presented by Tim Shaw, associate producer Chara Revitt, using the resources of the World Wide Web, the Phuket News Centre, Voice of America, BBC, CNN and the Bangkok Post. Stay tuned to Live 89.5 for the BBC News on the hour, and on the half hour, the Phuket News Centre. It's been great to have your company. Have a great remainder of the day, and we look forward to you joining us again here on the Phuket News Hour, brought to you by the Kids Club Phuket. Bye for now.
This is the Phuket News Hour with Tim Shaw. Join the conversation on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Phuket Live Radio.